Well, great day, family. Y'all doing okay? All right, so let me first begin by saying how excited I am to be back at Socrata. Last year I had an amazing time, went home with an Apple Watch that my son hurried up and confiscated. So today I want to do something just a little bit different than last year. Last year I did a great deal of talking, so this year I want to talk a little bit and give you an opportunity to engage me about some of the things that we were able to and have been able to do in the city of Jackson, and hopefully you'll be able to understand what we've been able to get done, how we've been able to do that, and then I can probably be able to understand how we can take this another further, as we say. Let me give you my disclaimers. Number one, I am extremely Southern, so I say stuff like y'all. I say stuff like I then, and I talk slow. So those are things that I make no apology for. So my commitment this afternoon is to be brief, to be bright, and to be gone. Can we talk about the talking data? Yeah, who said woo? Who said that? Woo, all right, you're the next contestant, baby. So I don't know about y'all, but I am a Walking Dead fan. Any Walking Dead fans? Yes. I'm so sick of that damn Negan. Anybody other than me? So I'm a Walking Dead fan. One of the things that I noticed immediately after watching this episode of The Walking Dead was there's some things that started becoming pretty clear to me about the walkers. So if you don't know what a walker is, those are the zombies, okay? And you better get ready for the zombie apocalypse because it's coming, all right? You better get ready. So one of the first things that I noticed about the walkers was that everybody knows that the walkers are dead. They used to be somebody. They used to belong to somebody. They were somebody's mom or dad or sister or brother. But what we don't know really is a lot of history about them. We don't really get an opportunity to understand who they are until I recognized one day that Rick goes in the pockets of one of the walkers that he had killed, pulls a wallet out of the pocket of the walker and begins to go through the walker's information. It was then that I discovered, doggone it, the dead can speak. The dead can speak because they leave us opportunities to investigate exactly who they are. But most importantly, the dead have voice. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the data has voice. One of the first things that we learned after our year of engagement with Socrata was that the data ain't mute. That's another Southern thing, ain't. The data is not mute. M-U-T-E. The data has voice. It has an opportunity to speak the same way that the walkers have voice. When you investigate exactly what they're trying to say, it's the same way that the data has a voice. What we recognized was that there was data all around us. That there was not only was there data around us, but there was data in everything that we did. The problem was that we was not giving the data an opportunity to speak. So not only am I Southern, but I'm a church boy, so I do a lot of stuff like look at somebody and say. So I'm going to ask you real quick, look at somebody and say, do you hear it? Y'all, see, that's my problem with adults. You're so disobedient. I said, look at somebody and say. So let's do it again. Look at somebody and say, do you hear it? That's the data. The data is speaking. The data is talking to you. The question is, do you hear it? The question is, are you really taking advantage of an opportunity to know what your data was saying? What was our data saying? We learned, not only did we learn that the data speaks, but we also learned that we have to take an opportunity to hear what the data was saying. We got in the office. If you were here to hear Justin Bruce earlier, he told you that we inherited a $14 million deficit. As soon as we walked in the door, not only did we inherit that, but we also inherited when you compound our consent decree plus our other infrastructure needs, an almost $2 billion infrastructure deficiency. Compound that with the situation that we were having with our water infrastructure. We've had 4 water crises since I've been the mayor of the city of Jackson. And then you just compound that with the fact that folks can't get these dogs to stop barking. Now, that's funny to you, but to somebody, that is a crisis. How do I know? Because my phone will ring at 2 in the morning because a dog is barking. That's got to be a crisis. So as we begin to take real deep looks into this conversation around data, what we recognize was the fact that this data piece really, at the end of the day, revealed to us some things that we may not have wanted to talk about out loud. We may not have wanted to talk about the fact that when we began to dig deep, we understood that the reason that the city's finances were in dire strait, the reason that Moody's was always downgrading our rating was because we didn't even have a fiscal policy in place. But if you say that out loud, then everybody goes crazy and nobody wants to invest in the city. So we had to start dealing with the real deal. The first thing that the data should be saying to you when you begin to do really deep dives is that you have got to do some triage. At least that's what it told us. That we had to triage the city. We had to triage every department. We had to triage every division. We had to understand where we had gaps, leaks, and hemorrhages. Well, you can't just triage if you're going to lead, because triage is something that anybody can do. Middle managers triage, but leaders don't triage. Leaders have to be able to triage and move an agenda ahead. So not only did the data tell us that we had to triage, the data also encouraged us and informed us that as we were triaging, that we also had to look at intervening. So I come from the education space, and an intervention is really simple in that world. It simply means that you find out where a child is deficient, you understand those deficiencies, you bring in reinforcements in order to intervene in the space that they are deficient to put them in a place of proficiency. Real simple, right? Not in government. Because in government, you got to jump through 18,000 hoops. You got to have 40,000 community meetings. You got to meet with 25 million city council, mini city council, assistant mayors, deputy mayors, and people that just believe they can do the job better than you. The data said we not only had to triage, but we also had to intervene. But not only that, but the data insisted that we had to create both short-term and long-term plans. And family, let me just be frank with you. If you're going to do this job in any kind of an effective way, you've got to do it with planning. And without having data to inform those decisions, then you end up in a situation like the city of Jackson is in right now, because no real, consistent, long-term planning went into place. So can I talk to you a little bit about Jackson, and then we'll move ahead? We learned that the data speaks. We had to listen to what the data was saying, and then we had to start doing some of the things that the data encouraged us to do. Let me tell you something about this data. If we're going to talk about the fact that the data speaks, we were encouraged by the data, we got to talk about the fact that the data you got to pass the mic to the data. All right? Look at somebody and say, pass the mic. All right, now I have a black belt and everything, so now I'm just playing. I ain't about that life. I'm scary, all right? I'm scary. I don't do any of that. You gotta give the data the mic. When you give the data the mic, it takes all of the pressure. And right now I'm talking to folks who have the unique opportunity to stand in front of people to talk about this data. When you give the data the mic, it takes the pressure off of you to have to defend the work that you're doing. We had to learn that we needed to defend the mic. I told you that we came in 2014, there was a $14 million deficit. Let me give you some context. We had a surplus when I first walked in, but we also had a deficit in the city's general fund. They used $14 million, moved it to the general fund. Basically, we borrowed money from the savings account and put it in the checking account. That's a no-no. But the city has been doing this as a practice at least for the last decade. Well, last year, once we put a stop to that, we put a stop to it, but there were also some outstanding payments that we had to make to HUD, repayments. Well, this past year, the media, everybody was reporting, even the city council, that the city would close out the year with a deficit in our fund balance. Well, we knew that while that was possible, we also knew that we had put in interventions and plans that would stave off what they believed to be the inevitable. And people wanted me to tell it. Yarber, you got to get up and you got to tell them. Just how folks in the country parts suggest. All right. Yarber, you got to stand up and you got to tell them that ain't true. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you're right, but there's another way that we have embarked upon in order to do that. Our engagement with Socrata gave us the opportunity to launch a budget platform, and I said, instead of me just telling them, I'm going to show them. Did I mention that I'm in the throes right now of a re-election? I'll get to that in a minute. Saying instead of me telling them, we'll show them. For weeks on weeks upon weeks, the media talked about the city's financial crisis, the city's financial crisis, the city's financial crisis. And on September 30th, when the books closed, I announced a $7 million surplus that they did not believe that we would have. And then I showed them how we did it. There was not another article written about the budget. So then on Sunday night, one of my opponents in a Mayoral Forum begins to talk about the city's financial crisis. And I'm sitting there laughing on the inside because I'm thinking to myself, this joker ain't been on our budget portal. And Justin Bruce, who runs that operation, is sitting in his seat squirming and looking at me like, you better tell him. Tell him about the work we've been doing on this portal. So I sit there in my seat waiting on my turn because I'm about to slaughter him, right? I'm like in my MMA Mortal Kombat finish him mode. And I rise and I say, actually, sir, the data insists that not only do we have a savings, but we are also ahead in this particular quarter in revenue, as well as we are now behind this year where we were last year in our expenditures. And why don't you visit us at budget.jacksonms.gov. Bam! I'm talking about, and I got another one Thursday night, and I cannot wait to get back to my room and go back over these 3 different opportunities that we have afforded people to hear our data speak. We've given the data to Mike, and we've said to folks, if you really want to know what we're doing with your money, go and check us out. If you really want to know what we're doing to move the needle in our capital improvements, go and check us out at capitalprojects.jacksonms.gov. Go and check us out. Well, the last thing that we learned was that all that's great, and that's important, and we've been able to track performance, and I'm able to hold people accountable, and the public's able to hold me accountable, and all of those things. But then I went to a neighborhood meeting, and I think I may have said this to y'all last year, but there was a lady there, and this may have been about three months ago, and I'm telling them about the website, and she said, now, Yarber, you know doggone well ain't nobody got no internets. I said, got no what? Ain't nobody got no internets. So let me translate it because it took me a minute. Internet. I was like, oh, internet. So at that moment, I realized that not only do we have to pass the data, the mic to the data, now we've got to open the mic. We got to create a Love Jones situation. Is your name Yemiya? Okay, I'm sorry. That's like one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite scenes. Well, we've got to create an open mic situation. Because what the open mic opportunity does is it gives the opportunity for everybody to be engaged. It gives everybody from the lady at the Westside Community Center all the way to the folks at Millsaps College who have now started to use the API and the information that they pull from our data to create apps. Now there is an open platform, as is cited by a young man who was a student in our public school system who just created an app based on our data that tells people where all of those damn potholes are. A kid in our public school system. Because we gave the mic to the data, because we listened to the data talk to tell us what we needed to do, and now because we have opened up the mic, now everybody has an opportunity to influence their government. So good government really ain't good government unless everybody has an opportunity to put their hands in it. And so if you're really going to be real about this thing, you got to give people that opportunity to be engaged and to do what it is that government was created to do, and that was to work for them. I got 4 minutes and 41 seconds. I know y'all said 30 minutes and that ain't been. Who's in charge of this? Y'all gave Justin longer and I'm his boss. We'll talk about this later. So what have we been able to do in Jackson? We have not turned any corner. Let me just be frank with you. Can we just be real honest? While we have been able to accomplish a lot of things, we have not yet turned the corner. But what we have done is created momentum. And momentum is what gives us the opportunity to be able to turn those corners, to be able to make those bends. But that momentum started when we started listening to all of the data that is around us. That momentum started when we were able to sit down with department heads and as the mayor, I'm able to ask questions like this. Well, Mr. Police Chief, you have decreased crime in Precinct 1 over the last month. Why? See, the police chief is expecting the mayor to celebrate him. But it's not a celebration until you can tell me what the data told you that influenced whatever those things are that you're doing. And it's still not a celebration until we can make that systemic so that it will outlast any mayor or police chief. It does not matter until you start listening to the data. So we're not at a place to celebrate ourselves yet, Socrata family. We're not in a place yet to pat each other on the back because we have not yet established real systems of change. And so while I love to get you all hooping and hollering and clapping, my real challenge is to tell you that you got a lot more work to do. That you've got to find ways to challenge people to not only hear what the data is saying, but to be able to connect those dots so that communities that really need your creative genius, your collective genius, are able to benefit from the fact that the data might seem to be walking dead, but it is yet alive. And it has amazing voice. Normally I do a poem at the end of this, but they're saying I got 2 minutes left, and the lady back in the back, she's like Freddy Krueger-ish. So I'm gonna stop right there. I'll entertain as many questions as I can in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. There she is. You see her? Just over there in the dark like this. Boy, I'm telling you. And then she disappears in the back. Hey, you don't have to give life to the stereotype, lady. All right, okay, I'm sorry. Any questions? No questions? All right, so we got a question right here. Stand and let us know who you are and what set you represent. Now, I'm just playing. Where you from?
So I'm your cousin to the west. I'm Melissa from Little Rock.
Hey, Little Rock. I was just in Little Rock not long ago with the Violence Reduction Network.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Justin, love him, love you. How can we as your neighbors take this regionally? I know you guys are focusing on Jackson. We're focusing on Little Rock. Been talking to Justin, been talking to Memphis, Birmingham, everybody else around because like you said, family, we're cousins in this. How can we take this to that next level and figure out, besides just inside our municipalities, what can we do to help each other?
Well, I think, a couple of things, and this is going to sound simple, but it's not. Trust me, there's nothing simple about it. We got to create this 30,000-foot vision that helps people to understand what the idea of these regional partnerships should look like. The VRN is great. Violence Reduction Network that is sponsored by the Justice Department, and it creates this network of communities where the idea is that they all share very similar struggles as it relates to crime and criminal justice. So we got to identify what our common issues are. Once we've identified those common issues, then we start to identify those systems that the data is telling us about, that we have tried and tested, that are beginning to work, and we've got to do it in tangent. So we've got to, it can't be something that you do a little bit of and we do a little. We've got to say, all right, here's what's happening in this 5 network or this 6 network organization, and we're all doing it. We may have to do some things in terms of nuance, cultures, but as it relates to the system, we've got to be able to launch it together. And that takes really a meeting of the minds of the people who have been elected to make those 30,000-foot opportunities happen. Oh, the light is red.
Mayor Yarber?
The light's red. I gotta go. The light.
May we please hear the poem?
Hey. So, what, you gave me the thumbs up? All right, that's, okay. I'm just saying, because I'm getting dinner tonight. All right. So there's this poem by Dr. Benjamin E. Mays. It's called God's Minute. And this poem I recited every time I speak today would have been the only exception. And I do so that people like you understand the magic that is in each moment that you're given to be a difference maker. And I don't ever want you to believe that opportunities, whether they are good or bad, whether they're challenges or struggles, whatever they may be, I want you to understand the power that you have that's been harnessed on the inside of you to unleash the ability to do what you need to do, but it's always in how you think. Dr. Benjamin E. Mays says it very simply, very eloquently, and very powerfully by saying that I have only just a minute. Only 60 seconds in it, forced upon me, can't refuse it, didn't seek it, didn't choose it, but it is up to me to use it. I must suffer if I lose it, give an account if I abuse it. It's just a tiny minute, but eternity is in it. God bless y'all. Thank you so much for having me.